Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm Professor Spira, and we will be talking about lesson 22 from Professor Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet Healing System, annotated, revised, and edited by Professor Spira. And we are on the part where we will discuss fats. This is the non-stutter portion. Ehret is not stuttering here. It's very clear. Fats. All fats are acid forming, even those of vegetable origin, and are not used by the body. When Ehret says vegetable origin, that means plant origin. So this does not mean that fatty fruits are exempt because they are technically defined as a fruit. Any plant-based item that has a high fat content is, in Ehret's opinion, acid forming. Even those of vegetable or plant-based origin, and that they're not used by the body. You will like, crave, and use them only as long as you can see mucus in the magic mirror, which is the tongue. What doctors call heat calories is caused by the fats in friction, obstruction in the circulation. They constipate the small blood vessels. So this is here where he gives a little bit of his opinion on calories, and I'm sure the nutritionists will come in and say, well, that's not a right interpretation of calorie. It's like, okay, you can make, that's fine, you make that argument. The whole thing here, the point is that Ehret is disregarding the calorie theory, as he said even elsewhere, that it's not useful to us. Now, if some people want to say, well, that was a long time ago, might be helpful now, you're entitled to say that. I disagree, and we can leave it at that. But and I encourage you to study that. But if you study modern day information about calories, please study the origins of it, and study Atwater's information, and study the way that theory was developed and then used to market to consumers of this surplus of foods and items and things that needed to be marketed to the people, the Walmart kind of thing. Sometimes you need a scientific basis. That's been a great sales thing. Look on, so many people talk about science, but their whole relationship with science is based on television commercials. They say 1 in 5 doctors say that trinophenylsilicon, eating 2 tablets a day will help you with prevent heart attack. And that's what people are like, 2 doctors and scientists are in today in so-and-so medical journal. There was a study that found that such and such happened to these people. These pigs were fed a fat diet, and they did not die, and they started looking more human. And just these studies. I'm not anti-science. I'm an advocate for, if you want to have a serious discussion about science, then send me the articles right out of the medical journals. Like, let's have a discussion on conclusions from influential medical journals and influential articles from the most prestigious journals. If we're going to do that, but let's not base a scientific argument or concept off of a BuzzFeed article. Because by the time it gets to BuzzFeed, it might start in a medical journal, and then by the time some author takes little bits and pieces and waters down whatever was in that original document into a BuzzFeed article or a Huffington Post article or whatever, that ain't gonna give you any kind of scientific understanding. Reading some of these articles, that's because they sensationalize things, they often disregard the most important thing that makes the thing scientific in the first place, which is the comparative element, comparing multiple experiments to one another that by different scientists. But anyway, that's my rant with that. So I don't want people to think I'm anti-science or anti. I would never tell you to not go study. Go study it. Study all that. But the challenge is, can you bring Ehret's, or can you put Ehret's filter in effect through your studies as you go through? You know, take Ehret's consciousness with you is usually what I suggest and recommend, because it is very hard to combine those two. It's like you either can analyze it through the Ehret lens, or you're going to be stuck sort of with one foot in this sort of way of thinking over here, and then over here like, well, Ehret said some good things, but you know, Dr. McDougall or whoever, they said this, and you know, it's like I don't know. I like it. I just prefer to have real serious conversations. If we're going to get into a scientific discussion, let's get into a real scientific discussion that's based on the origin of these theories, that where this stuff comes from. These ideas don't come from Huffington Post and BuzzFeed. They come from medical journals, and they come from research that's been done by people. But when you start to critically examine the research instruments that are used, that's where we're starting to have a real conversation about, okay, well, was the sample size big enough? Did they, just is all that thing. So I won't go off into that. All I'm saying is, Ehret says that all fats are acid forming. Cereals and all flour products form mucus and acid. The worst of all is white flour, because it makes the best paste. Bran, graham, whole wheat, or rye bread are less harmful because they have lost their sticky properties. When well done or toasted and well baked, they are much less harmful. Raw cereals, if toasted, are to some extent a mucus broom, but contain stimulants wrongly believed to be of food value. Pies made of rough, unbaked dough are, according to my belief, absurd. When eaten with sweets and acids, they are mucus and gas producers, the same as French pastry. And we've discussed that before, where in some circumstances, cooking a particular food item helps to eliminate some of its gluey property. It's still mucus forming. So if you do the well-toasted wheat bread, it's still mucus forming. And if you have a wheat intolerance, then you don't want to go down that road. There's other options that we can discuss. But for the average person that can handle that, it's nothing wrong with that transition. And sometimes, I mean, we have to put into context where we're coming from. I mean, we're coming from Burger King and McDethels and Wendy's and Taco Hell, and I mean, we're coming from just mind-bogglingly terrible foods, and people, I mean, you're not going to die right away eating that normally. It's going to take some years, but it's not pretty at the end at all. People that, you study elders in other cultures that didn't grow up with the fast food thing. The cleaner eating cultures, their elders, a lot of them die. Some of them die pain-free. They don't even have pain. Their body just kind of stops. They stop breathing. They pass on real peacefully. That doesn't often happen over here in the States, because that is not, there's no kind of peaceful diet going on, and so they're not granted a peaceful end. So that's that. Cereals, like I said, that it's one of the mucus forming foods that Ehret recommends to use in moderation for transitional purposes, but again prepared in a certain way as to diminish the mucus quantity and quality. Legumes, lentils, dried beans, and dried peas are too rich in protein, the same as meat and eggs. The peanut is also a legume. So again, he's saying in terms of a strict mucus-free diet that's not what you want to be eating, or too rich in protein. That's not what you want to be eating. But for transitional purposes, that's another thing that's an option. Potatoes, they are a little better than flour products because they contain more mineral salts. They do not make a good sticky paste. Sweet potatoes come close to natural sweets but are too rich, well fried or crusty, baked like Saratoga chips, but without the animal grease. Sweet potatoes are almost mucusless. So potatoes, I tend to not recommend white potatoes at all, but you can. I mean, Ehret, there's interpretations of the potato discussions where you can, if you want to use white potato. To me, sweet potatoes are just better, just all around better to use for your transition. Maybe that's just me, because eating white potatoes, I didn't want white potatoes without a whole bunch of garbage on top. Like, I didn't want a plain white potato. Don't taste like nothing to me. Just, you might enjoy it and love it. I did not like a white potato without sour cream, a ton of butter, chives, salt, pepper. I wasn't going to be able to use potatoes to transition, because if I have a baked white potato, there would be no way for me to have had that without those condiments on there. And I didn't want to use a lot. I wanted to get off of the butter. I wanted to get away from sour cream, all that. Because it was the only time that I really ate a lot of that kind of stuff. So I put sour cream on certain Mexican type of food. Well, American Mexican. It's not real Mexican food. It was, the Taco Hell thing. But I would put sour cream on that kind of stuff, and I put sour cream on white potatoes. So that was a huge trigger. So I let go of the white potato totally. I got off of white potato chips, white baked potatoes, all that. I just was like, something like that becomes such a significant staple. Because I almost ate potatoes every day, because I ate fast food almost every day. So the potato, which those French fries, that's not the degree to which that's real potatoes is questionable, but they're somewhere along the process there was a potato involved in some of those things. And but just eating that all the time, I was like, nah, I just can't. I associate it with so many other things. But sweet potatoes was a little different story. Now, in the beginning of my transition, I did use some soy butter for a while. So there was a while where there was a brand of soy butter that I read the ingredients, and it was somewhat clean. And as I still had this butter craving, and so I used that, and that helped me get over certain humps. Then eventually, at one point, I cut out all oils, which meant I cut out that totally. I just got off of that, and I was eating. For me, I was a mucus-free period. I was eating nothing closely resembling mucus on any level, and then when I got done with that, I just never went back to the soy butter. It was done, because after there was some fasting involved in there as well, and when I came back from all that, I was done with that. So I say that as a case study of, it's not the end of the world if you're using certain things to transition, because it's finite. If you really want to get off of it, like, okay, I'm not gonna eat this forever, So yeah, but baked sweet potatoes, once I got off that butter, I would use a baked sweet potato just eat it with I would either eat it with a little bit of tomato sauce, because that became a staple for me. I always made tomato sauce a lot and would use that as a dressing / gravy, whatever, on vegetables and just whatever stuff I was eating. I put a little bit of it in my salad, but I would use a little bit of that on a sweet potato, and that was cool. Or like what I do now is just eat it with nothing on it. It's just, I like it without putting anything on it. So that is the potato thing. Rice is one of the greatest mucus formers and makes an excellent paste. I firmly believe, through my experience with serious cases of sickness, awful boils, etc., prevalent among one-sided rice eaters, that rice is the foundational cause of leprosy, that terrible pestilence. So that's a pretty heavy statement. I mean, if you really kind of read into that, I won't go into that too much at the moment now, but there's some interesting connections to be made by that particular paragraph. But just on a practical side, we wanted to try to avoid eating glue like stuff that turns into glue, because they just don't eliminate well. I mean, you don't have to be technical and scientific talk and all that. It's just like, look, if you eat glue, it's sticky, slimy, it goes in and it's gonna leave behind this residue in the intestines and stop things up and just constipate stuff, and you might still have a bowel movement here or there, but stuff is so slowed down and this residue just sits on there and it gets more and more putrid and nasty. And so rice is something that the only time I got off of just regular rice, and to me there's not a real big difference between brown rice versus white rice. I mean, if you're gonna have rice, I guess the brown rice. But there was a product that Brother Ehret told me about, and it essentially is a store-bought version of the fried rice-based thing that Ehret talked about earlier, where you could, if you sat rice in water and let the mucus come out of it, you set it for a long time in water, then you come and you can press it into patties and fry it, that you essentially sort of get rid of a lot of the mucus that's involved in that. And there was a product that I used on my transition that was essentially like a nature burger kind of thing, and one of the ingredients in it was rice flour. And so that was sort of my version of that. But other than that, I never just sat down and ate or felt the need to eat rice, because again, didn't taste like anything to me. I didn't like the taste of it, and it never really filled me up. The times before the diet, when I ate rice, it never satisfied me. I always needed more of something else. Man, sometimes I would go to an Asian restaurant, again, an Americanized Asian food restaurant, and you get like I forget the name of the stuff I used to get, but I would eat it and it would be cool, but I would be totally hungry an hour later, and I might have ate a lot, and I could never eat that much rice. But if I eat just the rice and all that kind of stuff, and I had a couple egg rolls and that kind of thing, and I would be full for about an hour, and then I'd jump in my car and I'd be going up to McDonald's to, like, okay, let me get something that's really gonna fill me up now. And so anyway, it's a transition. If you have rice from time to time and that was a big staple of yours in your life, don't be hard on yourself. It's gonna be okay. You're still a winner. Thumbs up. Just they'll be a little facetious, but it's just I'm responding to that population of people that are just so hard on themselves. I mean, I want to give each one of you a hug and tell you it's gonna be okay, because it's gonna be okay. There's no need to be so hard on yourself. You know, love yourself. That's the first thing. I mean, it's hard to be successful in the Mucusless Diet Healing System if you don't love yourself, if you don't have a certain level of esteem for yourself. And so I always feel like now I got to emphasize that that has to be first. You gotta love yourself, and regardless of what you're eating, because that doesn't have nothing to do. Your self-worth doesn't have nothing to do with what you're eating. And people try to put that there where they don't feel good about themselves if they're not eating perfect or this or that kind of thing. And that's the problem with when people say, well, it's unrealistic expectations. But those expectations are what you're putting on yourself, because I don't have any expectations for people other than me. I don't expect other than people not to, I expect not to be physically harmed. That would be nice, to not walk out my house and have somebody there with a baseball bat or something. I expect that out of people, but I don't expect anything out of, you do what you need to do for your life. Like Sun Ra said, I'm like birds, they sing. If you want to listen, you can. If you don't want to listen, you don't have to. So just love yourself. Love yourself, and love those around you, and enjoy your life. Find your passion, and don't sweat the small stuff. And that's huge for Mucusless Diet Healing System. Like, some of these things are the small stuff, like, oh, I ate rice yesterday, or oh, I had some crackers the other day, or I did this. Believe me, there ain't nothing that you ate that I probably didn't eat at some point in my transition. And the saving grace for me was just focusing on the system, focusing on the overall transitional system, and working it, and just working, always coming back to to cleansing myself, getting my fasting in, getting my enemas in. Even if I lost control eating certain things, I'm always coming back to that. So thank you so much for plugging in, and say hi to me down in the comment section and let me know how you're doing. Tickle that subscribe button, and put your thumb there on the like button, and tell a friend to tell a friend that mucus free is the way to be. And I'll talk to you later. Peace, love, and breath.